I want you to think about that story and hold it in your heart, because if we forgive the things that we've been holding on to in the past, all of a sudden we have 50 gallons more of fuel, $50 more to spend. Our life is going to move faster. It's as simple as that. And we are more afraid of the speed of change than we are of forgiving somebody. We're afraid to forgive because we know in our gut our life will move faster, that we'll have more change than we know how to handle in a period of time, that we're not designed for quick change. We're terrified of it. And what I realize is one of the reasons, if not the strongest reason, we hold on to the painful past is because it's a way of stopping pain in the future from coming toward us. So the longer we hold on to a painful yesterday, it's like saying to heaven, no, see, I'm still trying to heal this. So go slowly on me, okay, because I really don't. And what you do is you hold on to this. But the other reason is it gives you a belief that you can control the speed at which change occurs in your life. And it's a very comforting thought, although it's a false one, because one way or another, these changes are going to happen. And what I want to, it's amazing to me every time, because as you unravel and talk to people, like, why are you holding on to this wound? Inevitably, the time factor will work its way in there. Well, I'm not ready. I need more time. What they're really saying is, I'm not ready for my life to move faster. I like the time zone I'm in. I know exactly where my dishes are. I know who's coming over for dinner. I know all of the way my house is set. And that's what we're really afraid of. It's not that forgiveness scares us so much. It's that it will cause our lives to change so rapidly. That's what we're terrified of.
All right. The clip that you just heard was from Carolyn Mace. I do believe that was back in 1998, if I'm not mistaken. Might have been shorter than that, but I know it's at least 20 years old. And she's talking about her book, Anatomy of the Spirit. And she's talking about holding on to old wounds and not healing from old wounds because you're trying to slow down the speed of change, which is something that I struggle with myself. Everybody does. And she was saying why people don't forgive, because forgiveness will release your energy, as she says, and cause change to happen faster. In other words, in the Egyptian, it's called removing the fetters that hold your soul down. All these things are like Marley's chains. They hold your soul down. Those are the fetters that weigh your spirit down into the mundane, into the lower earth. But I was looking for that clip in something similar, which she calls Woundology. And I was looking for that particular definition, the way she gives. I found other clips that talk about it. I may play that at a later date when we actually get into it. But the reason I brought this up is because I was on Gigi's live stream. I just happened to pop up because we're talking about socialism. I always enjoy talking to Gigi when I can get him, because I love to sit at the feet of masters. I love to exchange with masters because that forces my growth, forces me to think outside the box that I've put myself in. Somebody gives me a book that I've never heard of, an author that I've never heard of, a school of thought that I've never heard of. Even if I agree or disagree with it, I like to investigate it because it cracks open the box that I've put myself in as a limit. But we were talking about why people, Black people especially, don't move forward or don't like to change, or people period don't like to change, because I've often told the story about Quebec not wanting to leave Canada because it causes uncertainty, and uncertainty, it causes anxiety or increases anxiety. The The unknown future causes increased anxiety in a human being because it's not the past is settled, the present you're in, and the future is unknown. The future could either bring you more pleasure or it could bring you more pain. And there are no more anxious people than Black people because of the pain that they've went through. And they're always afraid of increased pain. So in some ways, Black people do innovate, but Black people always innovate on a scale from the familiar because it's natural for them to do. But in other ways, Black people are very risk averse because of that anxiety. But we're getting away from the subject, getting away from the topic. I don't want us to go into what I call BGS drift, where we veer so far away from the topic that you almost have to rename the whole video, they rename the whole discussion because you drifted so far away from the topic. But I was asking Gigi about anxiety, about anxiousness, because he had mentioned it in, I don't think he was talking about Heidegger, but he was mentioning that in Western philosophy that the modern people are anxious because of the speed of change, because of the unknown. And Carolyn Mace was saying that the speed of change is the speed of change. You can't stop change. You will change anyway. Nothing you can do about it. But what people do to relieve anxiety is falsely believing by holding on to their old hurts, their old pains, their old way of thinking, it will slow down the speed of change to a comfortable pace. That's what she was saying. When people talk about why they haven't healed or why they're holding on to an old hurt or they're trying to constantly fix on an old wound, as she calls it, is because they're trying to slow down the speed of change. They're trying to control their speed of change. And when you blend the two, what Carolyn May said and what Gigi said, what they're trying to do is lower their level of anxiety, stay in a comfortable place, because the anxiety itself is too painful, too unsure, too disturbing. It's easier to drag that old injury, the old victimhood, along with you. Now, all humans do this. The Jews have been doing it forever. They have been holding on to the Holocaust, which happened almost 100 years ago, and they have been speaking Woundology to identify themselves for almost 100 years. Even before that, the racism against them, the prejudice against them, the purges they had to go through, identify themselves that way as a people, even down to them being booted out of Egypt. They have been identify themselves as victims for thousands of years. And while that will work, and that has some kind of currency, especially with other people, they have found a way to still move forward and not be anxious about the future at the same time. Black people have to learn that trick. Yes, there's an injury. Yes, things have happened to us. Yes, it has damaged our society and even continues to damage our society. But we can't let it slow down our progress. We can't get nested into our victimology, our victimizing, our wounds to the point where we can't heal them. It's like picking at a sore. You ever have a sore, a scratch, a cut that's trying to heal and the scab is over, but every time it scabs up or something like that, you pick it off and you open the wound back up, and it continually has to continue healing and never really heals because you never let it heal. We keep re-wounding ourselves by living in it. There are some brothers that belong to SYSBM, or what they call, and not just the branch that is already married, already moved on, already found happiness, but they're still trying to understand what happened to them. I think a lot of them have already kind of found their peace, but there's some that haven't, and they're using the moniker SYSBM to nest in their wounds, which is amazing to me, because SYSBM is not to take on an identity of a victim. At least that's not the way I understood it. SYSBM, Save Yourself Black Man, was to identify your wound. And SYSBM, Save Yourself Black Man, was to start a process of healing, start a process of disidentifying with your wounds. In other words, save yourself, basically re-identify yourself. Stop living with the identity that somebody put on you. Stop trying to identify with an old wound, an old injury that somebody put on you. Don't use the healing factor as a label. That's how come I hated black men in this sector misidentifying a term that Rahm came up with, which is non-select. Completely misidentified and misconstrued what he was saying. Rahm was saying, depending on the environment that you're in, you'll be either select or non-select, and that's for everybody. That's what he was trying to say. He wasn't trying to use it as an identifier so that you could actually paint yourself as a victim. He was identifying that all people, women included, have preferences, and they select according to certain criteria, and different kind of women have different kind of criteria. So you will be select or non-select according to their criteria, and it's variable. But a lot of brothers have clung to it and used it as a badge of honor almost. They start identifying with the negative, or what they see as negative, which is non-select. And non-select is not a negative. Select and non-select are neither positive or negative. They're just facts. And the facts of the equation can change according to how you arrange the numbers. But you hang a negative connotation to a word, which is non-select, to a factor, which is non-select, and then you identify with the negativity. So much so that you never move. And I think that's the reason a lot of black men in this sector are afraid of success. They're afraid of healing, which is what Carolyn Mace said. You're afraid of healing because you're afraid of change. What if you do become select? What if you do find an arena where you're being chosen? It will cause anxiety because you don't know how to handle it. Most black men do not know how to handle a woman being nice to them because it's so unfamiliar. I know I struggle with that. I look on a person and a woman being nice to me with suspicion, because most times a woman in our environment being nice to you means she's pinned you as a sucker, as a mark, and that brings a suspicion and anxiety. Instead of relabeling yourself, investigating yourself, taking a risk of even being a mark. So what? You take some safety precautions, say it is a white woman and she does take advantage of you. She's going to take a few dollars, you have learned something, and you move on, which is a whole lot different than actually identifying yourself as a victim and staying in your little hole and then covering yourself up with dirt, staying that way, stagnating yourself, which is not healthy. And there's a lot of guys that hold on to victimhood that said, I should be happy being a victim, or basically said, I'm not a victim at all. I like being non-select. Non-select to me is not a negative, it's a positive, because I don't want to get selected. Because if I wanted to get selected, I would take the information that is given to me, Ron Wills, Kevin Samuels, Cousin T-Taw, Valdez, on and on and on and on. You would have taken the information, blended it together, found a strategy to change yourself and improve your situation. There's no way you can be in the same hole 5 years in a row. That hole, even if you're still in a hole, it would be a different hole. You can't complain about the same things 5 years in a row, not the same people. Other people can come in and complain because they're new. But the same 5 people, or the same people that have been here for 5, 10 years should not complain about exactly the same thing without coming up with solutions. Now, those people that complained, got the solution, applied them, should be coming back teaching the solutions to new people coming in. That's what should happen. Most of what people hearing from content creators is identifying a problem, is they're also giving you strategies to deal with that problem, so that problem does not become a problem for you. You want to heal, stop identifying with your wound. Identify with the strategy to heal that wound. I'm a wound survivor, not a wounded person, because you beat it. Same thing when I got a comment in my comment section where actually talking about moving forward in healing and the gender war being over, and people identifying with that gender war need to stop and move forward. Need to stop recreating the old wound and move forward. And one person put in my comment section about doing that will not stop white supremacy or heal white supremacy or stop the white supremacy in its tracks, or what, all kinds of different things actually, which had nothing to do with the topic in the video. Now, while you can't ignore white supremacy because it is a real thing and continues to be a real thing, because one, that's what we're thrown into, to use a little Heidegger. We have to adapt to the institutions of white supremacy, and we have to navigate the effects of white supremacy, even though it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. They cannot absorb you and show you the level of oppression that they used to. They can't. They had basically those things have to slowly but surely go away. The old way of doing things have to slowly but surely go away. It's kind of hard to be racist when your daughter has mixed children. Kind of hard. Kind of hard to be racist when all your kids have to play together and go to school together in the same neighborhood, the same school. It gets more and more difficult. It gets more and more difficult when, because of the economic stress, that you can't keep these neighborhoods separate. Poor white people have to get together with poor black people and poor Hispanic people. So the racism that we have now is not the same as the racism we had in the 70s or the 60s or the 50s or the 19th century. It's not the same. White supremacy and racism existing and it not being the same as it was, or the intensity that it was 100 years ago, those two things can happen at the same time. We do not suffer from 19th century racism. We don't. Is it as intense? It cannot be as intense. Is it still here? It can still be here. Can it come back? Yes, it can. It can come back. It can regress, just like anything else. Any movement can regress back to a mean. We saw that in Germany. It can regress. So basically, black people still have to be on their toes because the disease of racism can come back, at least temporarily. But if you take what Joe Biden said to the civil rights leaders about a couple of weeks ago, that so-called leaked video, I don't think it was leaked. Something he said that black people took as a diss. And maybe it was. Maybe it was a diss. Maybe it was a dig. Maybe it was a shot at black people, but it was also the truth. He said by 2040, white people will be a minority. And black people need to start working with the Mexicans because there's more of them than us. Or the Hispanics, there's more of them than us as an identity group. And what he's really saying is that what we think of white supremacy as a global power is not what it was. And it's declining, and at some point it won't be there anymore. So we need to transition how we handle it, how we see it, how we're going to navigate it. But a lot of black people hold on to the 1940s, 1950s racism. Even the young folks want to hold on to the 1950s. They want to go back to something that wasn't even there. Like the golden age of black people, okay? And imagine that black people are extremely powerful during this golden age, which didn't exist. In other words, they're going back to something that didn't even, identifying with something that didn't exist. We need to go back to Black Wall Street. They're still digging up bodies from Black Wall Street that they haven't found. Stop pretending that black people were something that they weren't, even the ones that were rich. Let's look at seeing things that are accurate and not things that are inaccurate. People have to start identifying with reality, what's happening right now. That's the way you heal. You don't slow down progress, you actually try to speed it up. If you're in a hospital, say you're in a car accident, you break everything up. In fact, I had a friend, she went through that. She was walking and a car knocked her 5 feet in the air. Just knocked her 5 feet in the air. Broke all kind of bones. Damaged all kind of bones, hips, legs, almost shattered her leg. They didn't think she was going to live. With her age and the damage that the car did, they didn't think that she was going to live. And she made a contract with God that if she went back, that she would endure the pain, that she would do whatever she needed to do to get back to normal. And the nurses and the doctors didn't think she was going to walk again. Well, they didn't think she was going to live, but she lived. And when she was trying to heal, because she believed in her healing process rather than her victimology, she never, she didn't even remember being hit. She never blamed the man that hit her. She didn't curse God because she got into an accident and she's laying in this hospital with catheters coming out of her body, and basically all these bandages on her face because she could barely see out of one eye. The bandages covered up everything except one eye, and she's covered in bandages from head to toe. But she believed so much in her healing process and identifying with her healing process rather than her wounds that they had to slow her down. When they had to give her therapy, she was in extreme pain. And the nurses and the doctors were trying to take it easy on her because they knew how much pain she was in. And she said, nope, I'm going to heal. Give me more. Don't slow me down from healing. Give me more. They thought she would never walk again. Within 6 months, her leg had healed and she was walking up and down the aisles of the hospital. First on a walker, then on a cane. And the nurses were trying to slow her down. But she so identified with their healing process that within a year, you could never tell that she was ever in an accident. Even today, I call her my miracle baby. She was never supposed to live, much less walk. With the amount of damage that was done, you can't tell that she was ever in an accident because she identifies with her healing process. She doesn't even talk about her accident. She doesn't even talk about her wounds. She doesn't identify with them. That's what Carolyn Mace was talking about. She could heal faster than the doctor said she could, because she did not identify with her wounds. She didn't identify with her victimology. She knew what she had to do. She knew the terrain that she had to navigate, and she did it. White supremacy does exist. The gynocracy does exist. Those are facts. Are we descendants of slaves? Yes, those are facts. Did it do damage to our culture? Yes, those are facts. But we also have to identify not with the negative, but with the positive. We have to identify with our healing strategy, our healing mentality, our healing ideology, and not with our wounds, not with our victimology. And you have to stop letting people use your victimology, the victimology, to get over on you. Because Black women will do it in a heartbeat. To keep victimizing you or keep you in a victim mindset so they can take advantage of it, they'll keep bringing up white supremacy. Okay, white supremacy exists. Okay, it does. Now, what strategy are we going to use to get out of this situation? One thing you could do is leave. That's the simplest way. Go build your future someplace else, away from the epicenter of white supremacy, which is the United States. Oh, but you're going to have to give up a lot of the creature comforts that come along with white supremacy. So it's better for you to right now to identify with it rather than to fix it or fix your situation, because there's going to be pain. As with my friend, she knew there was going to be pain in her healing. Instead of escaping the pain, she embraced it. This is the path through. This is the eye of the needle. You look at the marathon monks, and I love to look at the marathon monks of Mount Hiei. And for one while, I thought I was actually going to walk that path. I probably should have. Not there in Japan, but just mimicking what they do here, where I am, where they walked. They walked for 35 miles a day. They endured pain, ritual pain, the same way my friend did, endured pain. Why? Because through pain is the fastest way to enlightenment. That's like a lot of monks used to whip their skin into bloody mess in ritual pain, because pain does focus. Because human beings, all of nature, not just human beings, avoid pain, and they will do anything to get out of pain. So if you put yourself in pain, in an uncomfortable situation, you will work your way out of it faster. You'll get to work your way to enlightenment faster because you will focus. Pain does focus better than pleasure. You can use both, but focusing is actually using pain to focus for a positive outcome works faster, will heal you faster. And a lot of what's happening, especially online, is you're avoiding pain. Not the negative pain, but the healing pain. I won't go work out in the gym because if I work out in the gym, the women are going to want me for my body. So what? If I earn more money, become a so-called high-value man, they're going to want to take advantage of me or cheat on me because I earn more money. So what? I want to stay in my hole because if I change who I am, I'm not going to be real anymore. I won't have the image of being real anymore because it's going to change who I am. So what? You're not meant to stay static. You are not what you identify with. You are not what you identify with. What you identify with is a tool. Inside, you are not what you identify with. You can easily identify with something else. So if you can change what you identify with and change what, who or what you appear to be, really change it. If you really want to change it, you can change it. Now, is some pain and restrictions to come along with it? Yes. But if you can change it, that means you weren't that in the first place. You became that, you took on that because you're thrown into it. If you're a street dude And instead of being born in the ghetto or being born in the projects, you were born in a suburb. You could be the same personality, but the outcome would be different. What you are, what you appear to be would be different. Just because you changed environments. What does that mean? You were not that in the first place. That's what philosophy teaches you. You are not what you really think that you are. Because if you are what you think that you are, there would be no improving you. You'd be static. And people are not static. Human beings are meant to embrace change. That's what they give you a logical thinking mind for, to push toward change. Human beings push toward change all the time. Sometimes negative, sometimes positive. You're built for it. All the faculties to change are already there. All you have to do is endure the process, endure the anxiety, endure the pain, and do it. That's how you heal. That is the way through. That is the way of the shaman, as Carolyn Mace puts it. But anyway, if I continue the ramble, it'll probably get more confusing. So I'm going to turn it off here, put my soapbox away, and praying that we will navigate 2021. We will use the pain for positive gain and not to use it as fear to stay in our position, because we want to be comfortable in our pain and comfortable in our victimology, comfortable in our wounds. Our wounds do not identify us. Our wounds are not who we are. Our wounds should be a means to gain greater enlightenment and become something better, become something closer to the Creator. That's why you're here in the first place. But with that, I'm going to jump off of here. This is BGS out, and I will speak to you, good fellows, on the next one. Peace.